What is going on? How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a good day so far. And if you're a Miami fan, I'm sure you're having a pretty good week so far because you're heading to the national championship. But we are going to get a little bit ahead of schedule and talk about what's your quarterback position going to look like for next year? Because before the transfer portal opened, it was pretty heavily rumored that Miami was looking to spend very big on a quarterback and land one of the top quarterbacks in the transfer portal, which they've done the past 2 to 3 years and had much success with it. So they were looking to do the same thing for next year since Carson Beck will be out of eligibility, so you will be losing him, and you'll most likely, or actually, you'll definitely be in the quarterback market. So it's very interesting because as a lot of candidates fly off the board, you don't really expect to pick up mini transfer portal guys while you're in the middle of a national championship run. So, especially at the quarterback position. So, there are a few guys left that we're going to talk about. Not going to go too in depth on them, but just some guys that I think Miami could target and I think Miami will target, and some that I know Miami is going to be targeting, which we'll also talk about. So, like I said, not going to go too in depth, just kind of give my thoughts and opinions. So, before we do start, let me know in the comments if you're a Miami fan. Let me know who you want at quarterback for next year because, like I said, you guys have attacked the portal the past 2 years with really the whole team, but mainly the quarterback position, and you've had tons of success with it. And I expect that trend to keep going as long as Mario Cristobal is the head man in charge there. So let's get straight into it. So the first one is Sam Levitt. I think a lot of you kind of figured this would be the first one, and for many reasons. He's the biggest quarterback. He's going to be probably the most expensive quarterback, and Miami has the budget to do it. Miami is willing to do it. They are, I believe, Sam Levitt is either currently there or he is visiting there this coming week, unless he's already been there. I can't remember because he's visited many schools, but I do believe Miami is towards the top of his list. If I had to make an early prediction, I would say that it's going to be Miami and LSU battling it out for Sam Levitt. Miami has all the momentum in the world right now. If you see what they've done in the college football playoffs, they've made major runs, and I don't want to get too ahead of it. But if you go out and you land Sam Levitt, I think he's probably the best guy that you brought in at quarterback in the transfer portal. And I think Miami will be up there with the national championship favorites for next year as well. If I'm just going to make some early predictions, I right now I'd probably lean Sam Levitt to LSU, but Miami is going to make a push, and I know they're going to make a pretty heavy push because, like I said, the candidates are kind of running out. You don't have many guys to work with that really fit the caliber of starting quarterback at Miami. All the top guys are kind of already off the board. There's about two or three left, and Sam Levitt is the number one guy. So I could see Miami going out and really beating whatever offer LSU has for him. I know Tennessee is going to be offering him a lot of money as well. Like I said, Miami has the budget to do it, and if you can go out and get Sam Levitt, you're hitting a grand slam with this because Sam Levitt, he was getting a lot of first round draft hype going into this year. Even at the start of this year, he did deal with some injuries this past year, which did hold him back. And if he didn't deal with those injuries, he most likely would have been declaring for the NFL draft and prepping for the NFL draft right now. But instead, he's in the transfer portal and he's going to land somewhere big. And like I've mentioned many times, Miami is one of the top spots that could potentially land him. Now, I do want to jump into some numbers. Like I said, factor in he did deal with some injuries this year, but we will jump into some of the stats. 1,600 yards through the air, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I don't even think he played half a season. But when this kid does play, he's an absolute gamer. He's going to beat you with his arm. He can beat you with his legs. Pretty much a true dual threat quarterback. He's only a sophomore, so you're going to have multiple years of him as long as he doesn't go to the NFL draft next year. But I'm pretty sure if he does land at either Miami or LSU, he's going to be a one and done. And I'd say it's worth every penny that you're going to be spending to get him. He's shown that he could play at a high level in the college football playoffs. If you look back at Arizona State Sam Levitt and Kenny Dillingham really led Arizona State to the college football playoffs last year. Also, Cam Scatterbo was on that team as well. That was a pretty good Arizona State team, but the head man in charge was obviously Sam Levitt and Kenny Dillingham. That was the two big factors in that offense and that team in general. And they went in and nobody really had any high expectations for them. And they went in, they almost upset Texas. I would still argue to this day if a few calls went different in that game, you would probably potentially see Arizona State moving on to the next round to face, I believe it was Washington that year. No, I don't think it was Washington. I can't remember who it was. I don't know why I'm blanking on that. Yeah, it may have been Washington. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, if you land him, if you land Sam Levitt, I think you're getting a true player. If I had to make some comparisons, I'd say his play style is kind of similar to Jackson Dart, but I think he's more polished than what Jackson Dart was in college. Now, I'm not saying that in a bad way for Jackson Dart because I like Jackson Dart too, but I think that Sam Levitt's ceiling is insanely high. I think his ceiling is very high, and I don't think he's tapped that yet. Now, if you look at these past two quarterbacks that Miami did bring in, and Cam Ward and Carson Beck, you've seen their ceiling raise when they were with the Hurricanes, and I think you'll see that with Sam Levitt as well. Now, the next one is Dylan Raiola. And I don't know if many of you thought he would be on this list. Some of you did expect him to be on this list. I'm not sure. But Dylan Raiola, it's very interesting. His market is very interesting because when you were hearing the buzz that he would possibly enter the transfer portal, you were thinking he's going to be one of the top names in the portal. He's going to be one of the guys that goes really quick. He's going to have a huge market, and that doesn't seem like the case. It seems like his market is not exactly where the general public thought it would be, and probably not where he thought it would be either, transferring away from Nebraska. Now, he was the former number one recruit in his class at quarterback, I believe. No, maybe those rankings did change towards the end, but I know at one point he was very, very highly touted. He was still highly touted even after the rankings did change, but this is a guy who I still think his ceiling's pretty high. You know, he's a super raw prospect. You were kind of underwhelmed by what you saw in Nebraska. You were kind of hoping for more than what you did see, although he was starting as a true freshman, so he got in there very young, didn't really get many reps before that. So he was new to college ball. So you obviously haven't seen the best of him. I don't think you've seen near the best of him. Now, I do think he gets a lot of hate because of his Patrick Mahomes comparisons. If I'm sure you guys know of that. I think he's overhated because of that. I do think Dylan Raiola could be a very good quarterback. Now, I do think the fit at Nebraska, him at Nebraska, was very bad, and I think that really hurt his productivity as well. I think his fit at Miami will be much better, although I still don't absolutely love it. Now, if you do go out and get him, I think it's a good pickup. I definitely do think it's a good pickup, and he's one of the better options that are available. And like I said, his ceiling is still very high. So if you can bring him into Miami with Shannon Dawson and some other guys on that staff and really raise the ceiling that you've seen with these past two quarterbacks that you've done, I believe there's still a very high ceiling there that you have yet to tap into. I think you're going to get a good player. I don't know. There are some questions. There are some questions, but I trust Miami here. If there is anywhere that I would like to see Dylan Raiola play, it is Miami, because I think Miami is the perfect team to go in and really get out of him what you were expecting to see out of him at Nebraska, basically, and coming out of high school. Now, if you do look at his numbers, like I said, they're not going to jump off. They're not going to jump out like crazy. But he's another guy who dealt with injuries last year. You know, he did deal with a pretty tough injury, and that also leaves some question marks, whether he's going to be the same when he comes back, because it was a pretty bad injury. So will he be the same when he comes back? You know, 2,000 yards through the air, 18 touchdowns through the air, 6 interceptions, only a 62.5 QBR. But like I said, the fit there was just very bad. Another thing that I would say about Dylan Raiola, and I do think a lot of Miami fans will probably hate me even talking about Dylan Raiola in this conversation, because I know a lot of people don't like him. But I'm not one of those people. I do think he could be a pretty good quarterback, and like I've said, at Miami, I think he's a pretty good fit there. But one thing, if you do look at it, at Nebraska, both of his years, he had absolutely atrocious offensive line. Now, if there's one thing that Miami does very well, they build in the trenches very well. Now, Miami They're good at building offensive linemen. They're good at bringing in offensive linemen, recruiting offensive linemen, and defensive linemen. So if you're Dylan Raiola, you got to trust that you finally have a very good defense behind you. When you are on offense, you don't have that much pressure on you. You're probably going to have a good run game because, I mean, Mark Fletcher's been awesome at Miami so far, assuming he'll be back, which I don't really know why he wouldn't be, unless I'm missing something. I could totally be missing something. So if you're a Miami fan, I greatly appreciate if you did let me know about that. But I do believe Mark Fletcher will be back, and Dylan Raiola will also have probably the best run game that he's ever had. He's probably going to be throwing to the best receivers that he's ever thrown to, and Malachi Tony and some other guys as well. And he's most definitely going to have the best offensive line that he's ever had. I think the surrounding talent around Dylan Raiola was also a big factor in him not really producing at the level that a lot of fans were really, or a lot of people, college football fans, were really hoping to see out of him. So I think if you put him in that good situation that he would be in at Miami, you'll really see him thrive to what we really haven't been able to see out of him yet. Now, the last one, I'm not really sure how much interest Miami is showing here, but as the dominoes start to fall, I do think there will be some type of interest, and that's Hassan Longstreet. So Hassan Longstreet was a former five-star coming out of Centennial High School in California. So he was very highly touted. And Lincoln Riley made a strong push for him. A few other schools made a strong push for him. And it seemed like he was going to stick around and wait for Jaden Mayava to be done at USC and then take the starting job after that and be under Lincoln Riley this whole time. Now, he did enter the transfer portal the other day, so he is now available. I think this... I don't know what Miami would think here because he's unexperienced. You haven't seen him play much. You've seen him play very few. You've really only seen a sample size. Now, in that sample size, he looked very good. He did look very good in that sample size. But I don't know if you're coming off a national championship and you obviously have national championship aspirations for next year. I don't really know if you still go after a guy like Hassan Longstreet with not much experience at all. I think you want to go with a more polished guy like Sam Levitt or like Dylan Raiola. Guys that you kind of know what you're getting. Because, you know, if you pick the wrong quarterback in the transfer portal, that could determine your entire season. Now, like I said, you don't know much about Hassan Longstreet. Obviously, you do know there is upside. You do know there is upside. I believe he's going to be a good player. But like I said, when you have national championship aspirations, when you're coming off a national championship run, no matter what happens in that game, you're really looking to rebound. You're really looking to be back. You're looking to be back in that exact same situation next year. And what we've seen out of Miami these past few years in getting Cam Ward and in getting Carson Beck is you go for the guys that you kind of know what you're getting. So I don't really know how much of a push they'll make for Hassan Longstreet or if there will be any interest at all. I do think the market for them will be pretty heavy in the Sam Levitt and Dylan Raiola sweepstakes. If those two fall through, I don't really know what Miami does. There's still options like Deuce Knight out there. But it's another one where he just doesn't have much experience. So, yeah, that's just a few names I did want to come on and talk about and kind of give my thoughts and opinions on who will be quarterback for Miami next year. So if you did enjoy this video, I would greatly appreciate if you did consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to have a lot of Miami content coming, so if you are a Hurricanes fan, I greatly appreciate if you did stick around for that. And let me know in the comments out of these guys who you want at quarterback next year, or if there are some other guys in the transfer portal that you would rather have outside of these guys. So yeah, that'll do it for this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one, and peace. Hope you guys have a good one.